or years, the idea of Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul sharing a ring has hovered over boxing as a made-for-TV spectacle. The back-and-forth taunts, the teasing timelines, the will-they-won't-they storylines, fans felt it was only a matter of time. But in the space of a few turbulent weeks, that fantasy collided with reality. The biggest headline wasn't a face-off or a stare-down. It was the breakup of one of boxing's most enduring partnerships and the collapse of a Netflix headlining event. Calvin Ford, the veteran trainer who helped guide Tank from raw talent to world champion, has stepped away. At the same time, a civil lawsuit with serious allegations surfaced against Davis, and the Jake Paul fight was scrapped. The result? Chaos in a corner that used to be the most consistent part of Tank's life. Let's start with the split. Calvin Ford confirmed that he and longtime assistant Kenny Ellis have left Team Davis. Speaking in a recent interview, Ford acknowledged the strain, the inconsistencies, and the legal turbulence that have shadowed Tank's career. He made it clear that he no longer saw a path forward under the current circumstances. Asked about Davis's immediate future, Ford was blunt. There's a legal situation at play and any return depends on the courts. Until that's resolved, dates and opponents are just speculation. For a fighter used to dictating timelines, that's an uncomfortable reality. Gervonta Davis, the WBA lightweight champion, has not issued a formal statement about Ford's departure. But many in boxing saw this coming. The first cracks showed when Calvin did not join. Tank's training camp ahead of a bout many fans tied to Lamont Roach. The official line at the time was that Ford was taking a step back, but the footage and whispers told a different story. The team was patching holes and hoping time would do the rest. Internally, the real tension dated back months to Tank's surprise talk of retirement and therapy at the start of the year. In January, Davis said publicly that he wanted to focus on counseling and mental health, even suggesting he might walk away from boxing to become a better father. He talked about wanting to remove the anger, to let go of the fire that fuels fight night, and to be softer and more humble for his two daughters. The honesty resonated. For a knockout artist to say, "I don't want to think about fighting again," is not a throwaway line. It sounded like someone standing at a genuine crossroads. Then came the whiplash. Tank went into camp without Calvin Ford. The effort to keep the machinery running was obvious. Assistants pulled double duty, veteran voices tried to cover the gaps, and the public message was, "No breakup here." But underneath, the silence was loud. Calvin devoted more time to younger fighters at the Upton boxing gym. He brushed off suggestions that Tank underpaid him, saying they had a father and son bond rather than a traditional salary arrangement. Still, he didn't show up. The step back became a step away. Fight night revealed the true state of the relationship. Broadcast cameras caught tense exchanges in the corner. Between rounds, when Calvin urged caution, Tank snapped back. "Calvin, calm down and listen to me." In isolation, it's a heat-of-the-moment line. In context, it felt like a break in the chain of command between fighter and coach. Fans noticed. Overnight, social media filled with criticism of Davis for disrespecting a coach many consider a second father. Others defended him, pointing to the missing camp and the stress of the moment. Either way, the myth of perfect harmony was gone. After that bout, scored 115-113 for Davis by one judge and 114-114 by the other two, making it a majority draw. Team Tank tried to steady the optics. Reporters were told there was no fallout. Calvin was simply giving space, and the coaching structure remained intact. Barry Hunter, who has worked with Davis at various points since his amateur days, leaned into the family angle. He said Calvin would always be Pops, that Coach Boogie and Kenny would be around, and that shifts in the corner weren't unprecedented. He also cautioned that the internet fills gaps with guesses, and not every guess deserves a headline. But as weeks passed, the split looked less like a pause and more like a decision. And just as that reality set in, Davis's legal troubles returned to center stage. On October 30th, a civil lawsuit was filed against Davis by an ex-girlfriend, alleging battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. According to the complaint, she was working as a VIP cocktail waitress at a Miami club when Davis allegedly confronted and assaulted her in the early hours of October 27th, dragging her through back areas and beating her in a parking garage. The suit details prior threats, including text messages reading, "I'll kill you," and describes public incidents at a restaurant and additional confrontations in September. The plaintiff says she is undergoing therapy, lives with severe PTSD, and needs assistance with daily life. Davis has not responded publicly to the civil suit, and his camp did not immediately comment. As always, a court will weigh evidence and decide. But to sponsors, broadcasters, and promoters, the optics alone are destabilizing, especially for a fighter with a recent history of legal issues. There were immediate implications. Jake Paul's most valuable promotions initially explored replacement options for a November 14th Netflix event. Within days, MVP pulled the plug entirely, saying the show would be rescheduled for 2025 with a different opponent for Paul. In a searing statement, Paul called Davis an actual walking human piece of garbage, citing a pattern of arrests, lateness, and what he labeled vile behavior. MVP partner Nakisa Bidarian said they tried to navigate the situation responsibly, but that there was no viable path forward on the original date. The reaction across boxing was swift. Critics accused Paul of ignoring red flags for the sake of a big payday and a significant size advantage if the exhibition had gone ahead. Others pointed out that MVP typically keeps backup opponents ready and were surprised that the contingency plan wasn't stronger this time. Multiple champions weighed in, including Claressa Shields, who suggested that when accusations surface repeatedly, the public will inevitably believe the worst. Whether one agrees with the sentiment or not, the net effect is the same. The reputational cost for Davis keeps rising, and the business of Tank Davis, the pay-per-views, the sponsorships, the marquee appearances, gets harder to maintain. It is particularly jarring in light of Davis's January comments about mental health. He spoke about wanting to change, to create distance from anger and volatility. Now, with another lawsuit in play and a super fight canceled, those words sit uncomfortably next to the headlines. Innocent until proven guilty remains the legal standard, but the court of public opinion moves faster, and promoters read that room closely. For the WBA lightweight champion, that disconnect could be career-defining. Back to the coaching rift. How did a relationship as tight as Davis and Ford's end like this? The answer is layered. The training camp absence was the immediate trigger. Ford has said he needed to focus on his amateurs. That's his piece, his purpose. He also made it clear that when he's absent, it's because something isn't right. Old-school trainers live by an unwritten code. If I'm not in your corner, it's because I can't vouch for the process. Tank, meanwhile, appeared to interpret the absence as abandonment in the build-up. By fight week, they were operating on parallel tracks, not a single plan. The corner argument wasn't just about instructions. It was about respect, authority, and the hierarchy that wins fights when fatigue hits and instincts waver. The sharpest corners are the ones where trust runs both ways. Without that, the stool becomes a lonely place. Fans felt the fracture even if the scorecards favored Davis on one judge's ledger. In the days after, Tank's supporters talked about the resilience he's always shown. His critics talked about gratitude, about how Calvin Ford has been there since the beginning and deserved better in public view. Through it all, Barry Hunter tried to offer continuity. He reminded everyone that he's been around long enough to know the rhythms of Tank's camps and that he's more than capable of taking the lead. He also pushed back on the idea that one lineup in the corner is sacred and unchanging. In today's boxing, many champions rotate voices for different camps. That's true, but it's also true that the most dominant runs, think of the all-time greats, usually feature one voice, decade after decade, threading every chapter into a cohesive story. Where does this leave Tank Davis? Short term, he waits. The legal process must play out before any new date is set. If a judge sets timelines that conflict with training and promotion, the calendar will shift. Broadcasters will be cautious. The Nevada and Florida commissions will watch developments closely. Sponsors will tap the brakes. That's the reality when legal headlines overshadow fight promotions. Medium term, the question becomes, who is in command of Team Davis? If Barry Hunter leads the corner with Coach Boogie and other trusted assistants, can they restore structure and discipline? Will Kenny Ellis return if the legal storm passes? Is a reconciliation with Calvin Ford impossible, or could time and a clean slate reopen that door? In public, Ford is done. In boxing, old bonds don't always break forever, but some lines once crossed leave lasting scars. Long-term, the concern is bigger than matchups. It's about stability. Champions who last a decade at the top build routines around accountability. They align personal life, training camp, and business decisions. They insulate themselves from the chaos. Tank is 29. On talent alone, he has prime years ahead. On paper, mega fights remain. But the sport is filled with cautionary tales of phenoms who fought the wrong battle outside the ring and never quite reclaimed their peak. The domestic violence narrative, especially if it continues to produce new cases and claims, will not be something promoters can wish away with slogans and highlight reels. It's worth remembering what made Gervonta Davis a star. Explosive timing, cold finishing instincts, a chin that's been tested and has held, a willingness to entertain the shootout and win it. Those assets don't vanish because of a bad month. But execution at the elite level depends on trust. Trust in your team, trust in your schedule, trust in yourself. The January confession about wanting to remove the fire wasn't weakness. It was insight. The challenge now is to harness that insight in a way that protects the people around him and gives his career a foundation stronger than rage. As for Jake Paul, he'll move on. The Netflix event can be rebooked with a different dance partner in 2025. Paul's brand thrives on momentum and reinvention. He'll find a storyline, he'll sell it, and he'll fill an arena. The fighter who needed this event more was Tank Davis. It was an opportunity to bank a massive purse in a low-risk exhibition and reintroduce himself to a broader audience. That opportunity is gone. None of this closes the book on Gervonta Davis. Not the split, not the canceled fight, not the lawsuit. Boxing has room for redemption arcs, but it requires more than promises. It requires decisions that stand up in daylight, on training, on conduct, on the people you let into your corner and your life. If Davis commits to real therapy, real accountability, and a stable team, he can write the next chapter on his own terms. If not, others, judges, promoters, commissions, will write it for him. For now, the facts are plain. Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis have stepped away after decades. Barry Hunter and other experienced voices are available to steady the ship. The WBA lightweight champion faces a civil suit with severe allegations in Miami. Jake Paul's most valuable promotions has canceled the Netflix event, with plans to rebook Paul in 2025 against someone else. And until a court clears the path, there is no definitive timetable for Tank's return. Fans will debate every angle. Was the corner exchange a symptom or a cause? Did Tank's January comments foreshadow a deeper struggle? Did promoters push a crossover event too quickly? Those debates are part of what makes boxing compelling. But beyond the noise, a simple truth remains. Greatness in this sport is a full-time job. It's not just what you do on fight night, it's how you live between the bells. When the legal dust settles, we'll see who walks back into the gym with Gervonta Davis, who holds the mitts, who wraps the hands, and who speaks in the minute that matters. That, more than any tweet or press release, will tell us what comes next.